Hi, I'm Suresh Venkat. Welcome to Digital Disruptors. I'm in conversation with Rishad Premji, Chairman, Wipro. Rishad, first question. It's the year 2020, we're at NASSCOM. This is the future that we were talking about 20 years ago.
Right.
Flying cars, personal jetpacks, moon colonies, where are they all?
I don't know. We sometimes get very excited about the future and sort of where things will take us. But I think we've made tremendous. So, I'm not sure where we are about flying cars yet. I'm not sure what will happen in my lifetime. But certainly, there's a lot of progress that technology has made, and it's very exciting to see that progress. I think things to look forward to is certainly what AI will do as we move forward over the next 10 years. I think today we are very much at that place where we can do great speech recognition and image recognition. But really, how can we evolve to the next level of what artificial intelligence can really drive for the industry? I think there's tremendous opportunity around data and how do we leverage data. I think we're still scratching the surface in terms of data. I think with everything getting connected to the edge, all devices and things becoming more and more intelligent, how do we leverage that intelligence that sits within them to make smart decisions for ourselves, for our customers, for other stakeholders? I think the future and the ways of working are also going to change dramatically, and it has a strong tie to technology because skills will be very different. How do you access skills will change quite dramatically. I'm a big believer that talent will be sitting somewhere in the middle of nowhere, and you'll have to find a way to leverage them and access them, and perhaps the ways of working where talent comes into an office 9 to 5 every day will change. So I think there's a lot of exciting things to look forward to, but there's also a lot of change in the way perhaps that exciting stuff will actually come together and get delivered.
All right. I'm going to pick on one of the words you used in your answer, data. The cliche goes, data is the new oil. But we have a tremendous amount of problems with the old oil. There's pollution, there's mining, there's fracking. Is data going to cause similar problems in the near future for us?
I don't know. I think data is not tangible and physical in that sense.
Privacy, breach of trust.
Yeah, but I think we've got to start with the premise that the data belongs to the consumer. And ultimately, if you start with that premise, then you build up from that logic. So you have to find the right balance between protecting data, but at the same time not stifling it, because there can be tremendous value that can be unlocked if you allow that data to be used smartly. And so we're going to have to think through the right governance constructs which protects people yet allows the leverage of that data smartly to actually help customers more holistically. So I know it's still early days with the Indian government, but I think they're thinking about this very, very logically in terms of some of the statements that they've made in the bill that has gotten introduced in Parliament. I know it's going to go through a parliamentary committee over the course of the next few months, but the thinking is quite sound, trying to find the balance between the two. How do you protect individuals and their right to privacy, and yet how do you unlock the data? So I'm quite confident that we will find a smart level playing ground between the two.
The other thing you talked about was the changing nature of the workplace itself. In the mid-90s, when computers first burst on the scene, we said there will be a paperless office in 10 years. Today, we use more paper than ever before. We also have more office space being constructed and rented out than ever before. How does this square off with your view that the workplace of the future will be anywhere, home, cafe? We have more people sitting in more offices in more places in the world.
Yeah, so I'm talking from a technology standpoint, right? But I think, look, that's the conundrum, right? I mean, today we're talking about the fact that there's automation taking away jobs. The NASSCOM has just shared that the industry's added 205,000 net new jobs. If you take surround jobs that job creates, it's 1:3, 1:4 roughly. So that's anywhere between 800,000 to a million jobs. So look, I think jobs will still get created. They'll be in a different avatar, in a different shape. Many industries still require people to come together, right? People may want to work from locations that are closer to their homes. They may not have to come into the offices that you work in. So I think there will still be an opportunity for both work to happen from home, but work to happen from office as well.
And will this combination of quantum computing, AI and machine learning change the game for the software industry permanently?
It's still early days, I don't know. I think models change and models evolve. I remember having this conversation 20 years ago where people said at the end of Y2K, what happens to the technology services industry? Then came the ERP revolution, what happens after that? Then came BPO, what happens after that? Then came infrastructure, what happens after that? And the reality is we're a resilient industry, and we've been able to continuously adopt to the change, right? There's, I think, tremendous opportunity today around helping customers drive a very strong customer-centric, human-centric reorientation of enterprise processes. Gone are the days of just digitizing what we had, but fundamentally reinventing, re-architecting, re-engineering what is to be, right? And there's tremendous opportunity starting all the way up the value chain to then move down the value chain, which then becomes about the build and the run, where historically Indian companies have played very strongly. But more and more we're playing upstream to take the end-to-end story to customers, which is what matters. So I'm a huge proponent of the fact that the industry has a great runway. There's a lot of opportunity. We're adopting, we're investing smartly, and I'm hopeful that that will carry us forward as I look out over the next 5 to 10 years.
So in your view, the Indian software industry is aptly poised to take advantage of the changes to come?
I think we're very focused on it. I think certainly there are two challenges or constraints that we have to think about. One is talent, and how do we have the right skilled talent at the right place? How do we build that talent? And the reality is that talent doesn't exist on scale today. How do we focus on building a cadre from campus, focus on new age skills? I think NASSCOM is doing a very neat job in terms of their whole effort around future skilling. So I think that's one thing that we all have to think about as an industry. And how do we very systematically build talent in new age areas? Also, how do we give them the opportunity to actually have some practical experience around these new age areas? So how do we, for example, crowdsource projects within your own company so people get a chance to shadow existing live projects so they get to learn of those projects. The other big challenge and opportunity is mobility of people, right? There's a shortage of talent everywhere in the world. And so you have to make sure that talent is able to maneuver and get to where the opportunities are because there's a shortage. And so how do we work with governments to help them understand that this is not about job stealing or restricting opportunities in their own countries, but really about accessing talent that is scarce and very relevant to new age capabilities, which will generate stronger companies and ultimately more jobs in those industries as well.
The Indian government is a pretty significant player, at least as a buyer of tech. Is Indian software working closely enough with the Indian government in your view?
Absolutely. I think a lot of Indian companies actually work with the Indian market, whether it be private enterprises or state-run enterprises. And I think there's a lot of activity happening within government. A lot of departments within government are very focused on driving a very strong digital-first agenda, a very strong citizenry-oriented service offering. And I see tremendous progress. We work across states, across the center, and I see a lot of focus in terms of spend. And that will only pick up as we move forward.
Rishad Premji, my final question to you. What drives your, I don't want to call it CSR, what drives your social activities at Wipro?
Yeah. So I would separate two things. One is what we do at the Wipro Foundation, which is a part of Wipro. The other is the fact, I don't know if you know, but 67% of the economic interest of Wipro is irrevocably owned by the Azim Premji Foundation, right, which is independent. So they're two distinct activities, and I don't want to muddle the two.
Because that's a private foundation
Completely,
run by your father.
Right? And so the focus on the private foundation is very much around education and how do we work with teachers in rural India, working with the government system to significantly enhance the capacity of the teacher so they become more effective teachers to produce more effective students. And as a technology company, we threw technology at the problem initially, and we realized that that's not what solves the problem. The working methods between the teacher and the student are very, very critical. How do you measure, for example,
take one, solve it per se.
How do you measure, for example, if you taught a child self-confidence? It's hugely important to a child, but technology can't do that. Right? How do we also work with NGOs? And so we have a grant-making organization which is part of the overall foundation, which we distribute 170 grants to areas of vulnerability. So street children, railway children, adolescent girls, people with disabilities, women of domestic violence, small and marginal farmers, all areas in which we sort of focus our efforts, but just by giving, you're adding value. That's the focus of the foundation. The Wipro Foundation is also very active, right? So we do a lot of work around locations in which the company is based. We have something called Wipro Applying Thought in Schools, where we work in urban settings with schools to enhance the quality of education in a very similar manner in terms of enhancing the capacity of the teachers. We work on projects of importance like the Karnataka floods, for example, projects that are contemporary and at the moment on crisis situations. We also work in something called Wipro Cares, where we raise money, employees contribute, we match them, and then we do different projects, again, supporting different NGOs in urban settings where we work. And then we do some work overseas, where we are also, 90% plus of our revenues come from markets overseas, where we work, for example, in enhancing the quality of STEM teachers in Tier 2, Tier 3 districts of the US, working with about 400 teachers over 2 years in how do you make them better STEM teachers to produce better STEM students. So our focus in Wipro is around our locations and around our customers and the communities in which we live and breathe. The focus of the foundation is much more on rural India, very only exclusively India-centric, and perhaps the issues are much, much more grassroots.
Rishad Premji, thank you for talking to
Thank
us.
you
You're
very
watching
much.
Digital Disruptors. Stay tuned for more conversations around tech.